are live. Jimmy Harmsworth on the keys.
How you doing?
Pretty good, mate. Just going to double check that we've got our signals going out nice and clean. Black screen on YouTube. Why is that? Okay, it's all good now. We're testing out our new little sort of double stream here. Okay, cool. It's all working. Nice. Well, let's say g'day in the little chatty chats.
G'day.
Great promo this week, John.
Thanks, bud.
Who'd you get to do the voiceover?
Some poor child from...
It was a very cheap David Attenborough impersonator. He was
big time.
Got him on Fiverr.com, did you?
Wow.
I did.
Adobe Max this week, mate. It's been busy.
Mate, tell me about it. Sir. Yeah. Adobe Max, that's been a bit busy for me. I managed to be roped in. I mean, I put my hand up. No, I didn't really, but I didn't put it down where they said, hey, why don't you make some content for Adobe Max? And I didn't realize it was going to take 2 months of my life. And then today and yesterday was it all going ahead, going live. So...
And I'd suggest if anyone hasn't had a chance to have a look at John's sessions as well as the myriad of other sessions on there, it's all good stuff, all plenty of stuff that you can learn from, and it's all free.
It is, and I found out that the content that I did, which was about team projects, really, it's called Mastering Collaborative Video Editing with Creative Cloud. It's actually going to be up online on demand for about a year. So you got plenty of time to get there. Although, be fast. Hurry. Get there. Watch it now. Anyway.
Get there.
G'day. Welcome to the Adobe Video CHiNWAG. We haven't really let Paul Murphy have a word. Hey, Paul. How you going, mate?
Sorry, what?
Good on ya, fella. I love it.
MultiProject for the win.
That's me.
MultiProject, Bon Jarry, and Himmy Harmsworth.
I do look forward to your team projects talk, but we're not even touching on team projects tonight, are we?
We're not, although some people probably get a little confused because this is the conversation that I hear a lot. What's the difference? You got team projects, you got productions. I don't get it. What's
shared projects?
What's the problem? That's my really poor version of Jimmy Harmsworth. No.
Thanks, mate.
That's all right. It. We were having a
sound exactly
earlier.
The same.
I know. It's because we're the same person.
It's the facial hair.
Oh, good Lord. All right. Who's keen to hear about productions? I am.
I know I am.
Well, I know you are. I'm keen. Paul, you've had a crack at it? You've used it?
Yes.
Good. Good man.
I am a newbie, full disclosure, so this is going to be good for me.
In fact, the moment it came out, I think this was even before the beta, I got into it and kicked the tires on it because it's something that I've wanted for a long time. And I was thoroughly impressed very early on.
So I think when I'm going to ask you questions at some point, I'll be asking you how you implemented it and what your strategy was for actually getting your head around it initially.
Well, there are different uses for different people, and I'm gonna put a disclaimer out early on saying that although I can use productions for like more collaborative workflows, like for when I've had like an assistant working with me where sharing projects became an issue, to be honest, for me, the greatest value for productions comes from having very large project files, because when you work on a project for 2 years, you've got, terabytes worth of footage, and you start creeping up past like that 50 meg mark, suddenly editing just becomes, an absolute bitter experience because you got auto saves and you want them to be pretty regular or you're going to be very disappointed. And you've got load times as well. Not to mention, the bigger that project file gets, the more unstable Premiere can get just because it's chewing up all that CPU. So this for me was just a way for me to start to break up my projects. And breaking up something into a project in the past was a terrifying thing because people would always say, oh, just break your film up into reels. But like when you're working on a documentary, the number one thing you do is you take, that shot from Act 2 and move it to Act 1. When you're doing that across reels with projects that aren't talking to each other, It's an absolute nightmare. So to actually have like a hierarchy above those projects that's making sure that that shot that is in this project file over here, when it goes to that project file over there, it's the same shot. It treats it as the same. If I do something to it in this project, it treats it the same over here, rather than duplicate files or one file having a marker and the other file not having a marker in this project. Like it just changed my life. And I think that it was done so deftly as well. I mean, it does have a couple of drawbacks that are being worked through, but overall, I just found it really, really, really good for what I need from a project file. All right, I'm going to go home.
Awesome.
All right. Well,
he's made his money.
Before we look at it, maybe we talk about some of the things that you kind of people are doing now that it's like, this is a problem and we accept it as just the way that it is.
Yeah.
And it's a problem that I think one of the problems that stands out for me is duplicates, like duplicate copies of a reference, a master file, like a master clip. That tends to be a bit of a headache. So in the chat, let us know if you have seen this before, because it's certainly something that pops up a lot, especially when you try to split the work out and then go, oh, well, hang on, I want someone else to do a bit of work, and they get their own project, and then you grab their project and then you try to grab the bits that they've done and put that into another project, and it just creates this mayhem. Have you ever seen that, Jimmy? You ever had that wonderful experience?
Yeah, of course, I've had that wonderful experience time and time again. I mean, oftentimes I'm pulling in sequences because my current workflow, because I haven't extensively delved into productions yet, not having the work to use it for. And I can see from Paul's very accurate to very in-depth description there that as for documentary work, this would be an absolutely invaluable tool. But to this point, I'm sort of still thinking of it as a strip mining experience. So you have multiple editors working on different projects, then you're opening the project within the media browser window and you're pulling in the selected sequences that you want that they've been working on. So that is my basic understanding of how this works, but I'm sure there's a much higher level to which it actually functions, and I'd love to hear about how it actually interacts. Okay.
All right. Well, if anyone's got any questions, please be sure to fire away, and I might start sharing my screen here. Hopefully, I get the right one.
And if you are a user of Productions and you've got some little tips and tricks as well, fire them into the chat box too, because that's how I learn, is by hearing other people's workflows and understanding how they're using it and what environments that they're using it in. Because, you know, for me, tonight's episode is all about me learning.
Cool. All right, sweet. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something that has already been done. Now, Lord knows why my switching's not going to plan. Here we go. Okay, we're back. All right, let's jump in here and have a look. So in the window menu, there is a new option. Let's just zoom down, called Production. So I've already got that open. And it's sitting over here. And this is a brand new panel. So what this panel is an overview of folders and projects. Now, these folders exist on the actual storage, and these projects sit inside of these folders, and I could be managing that file level from the production panel. I could also be managing these folders and projects from the storage level, and they overlap and interact and they work together. So if I was to right click on any of these and reveal in Explorer, and I'll see if I can get one of these wonderful little panels to pop up. Here we go. Okay. We can see here that the file structure or the folder structure of what we see here is the same as the folders that we see there. Right, we've got edits, media, scratch, projects, social media sequences, and a trash folder. Now that trash folder is made when you make a new production. So if I went inside the media folder there on the storage, we can see that we've got all the days and then the drone, the graphics, blah, 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 blah. The same as what you see here.
I might just add to that, John, that you would never want to actually put media in that folder. You would only want to put the project that organizes your media.
Absolutely correct. The storage can be anywhere. It does not have to be part of the production folder. That folder that is nominated as a production folder, that particular folder only really needs to contain the projects that you're working on. And if you look at the way that this is set up, taking like one of the folders or the bins that you'd have inside of a big project and splitting them out into their own projects is the way that you think about managing this. And like Paul mentioned earlier, Paul, you were saying that you see this as a beneficial way of working, in that the project that you work on starts to get bloat, and a lot of the bloat is the amount of sequences that exist. And so you can start to push away a lot of the sequences that you've been working on that are versions of it and put them into their own project. So the project that you're doing the work in progress version, has only got one sequence or very minimum amount of sequences. That reduces the bloat. Is that right?
Absolutely. So I want to hold on to a backup of every sequence. Every time I make some sort of creative change on what I'm doing, I want to keep a backup of that previous sequence. But I don't want to be paying the price in terms of my project size to be able to access those all the time at any moment, because I don't need to access my backups all the time. But I would like to be able to go into my backups every now and again and go, I might just grab that file and bring it into my current project. And that for me was the huge change.
Right. So the other thing that happens here is when you split things out, and this duplicates, we just sort of mentioned before the duplicates thing, because it's set up as a production, there's this thing called cross-referencing, and it's brand new to the way Premiere works and the way that productions work. It cross-references clips to the associated project that it's come from. So instead of opening a bin inside your one and only mega project, you open the project that is for music, or the project that is for drone footage, or the project that's for dailies, whatever day, right? You kind of split it out like that. And then you can start to pollinate your sequences with the clips, and I'll show you how that works. And you only get one, you only have one source of truth, because it cross-references to where that clip actually came from, which project it came from. Kind of makes more sense when you see it. All right, has anyone got any questions? Be sure to fire them away. So I've got
a question here.
Yeah,
Can
go for it, mate.
Can productions be implemented retroactively?
Yeah,
it can. You can import a project that was done outside of productions into a production. It will actually create a new version of that project, so you can just back up your old one, and then you can actually start to break that project up into little pieces as you see fit.
Yep, absolutely. So hopefully I can kind of demonstrate that sort of, right? Just the way that it works. I've got here a final edit. The other thing is I've got the projects are locked by different users. So I've actually got three users at the moment. One's Mike Burton, the other one's Hal, and then the machine I'm on right now, which is the JB Factor. So I can remotely operate Hal. So we'll kind of see a little bit about the way this works. Right, so in let's have a look here. I want to look at this one here. Okay, so final edit, which is this one here. It's already locked by Mike Burton. So if I was to open this up, which it already is, because someone else,
JB?
Oh no, you got it on me. Here we go. That's better.
There we go.
So sorry. So I've got here Mike Burton, Hal, and myself on this current machine. And the other thing I'll do is just give you a bit of an idea of these icons. So the projects that have got a little padlock, they're locked and opened by someone else. In this machine, I've got the JB Factor is the name that I have in preferences for this machine. That's got a green pencil, means you can write into it. And anything else that's blank, they're just projects that exist, but they're not opened by anybody. No one owns them. Like, no one has control of them. You can have projects open and not own control, but you can still use them, utilize them. So this one here, if I double click, it's already open, and I can see down the bottom here, it's got the little padlock, and it says that the project is in read-only mode. The other thing that I can see as well, if I move up to the top, is the name of the project, and then next to it in brackets, it's actually got the name of the person or the name of that user who has control of it. Now that's based on, and let's go in and reveal the project in Explorer. This is based on that locking mechanism from shared projects, which we have had for a little while. So the whole productions ecosystem is actually like the third generation of shared projects. I can see here it's got this PR lock file next to the name of the project, which is inside the edits folder. And if I was to move that, because it's just a temporary file really, let's see, where am I going to move it? I will move it to, let me cut it. All right, let me just move that out the way, and I'll move it over to here. Bang, and has it gone? Okay, it's gone away, and then we will see that this still says it's locked, but the name isn't at the top of the project. All right, so there's no name, which means it's open, but nobody owns it. And if I look at the production folder, we can also see there that it has no owner. It's white in that it's open, but nobody actually owns it yet. So when I go in and select the padlock, it changes from a red padlock over to a green pencil, which means that I now own it and I can start making changes inside of it. If I go back to the production panel, we can see that it's actually got my name as the project locked owner. Who's confused?
Yep, I am confused and also invisible on according to your OBS screen.
Let's fix that.
Dun, dun. I've been sent into the doom.
There you go. There you go. You're back. You were purple.
Back?
You were purple. Okay, questions.
I'm back. No idea how that works. I can sort of get the concept into the project lock style. It's the same. You can do Premiere Pro project locking if you're working off a server, and two people can open the same file, but one person's obviously actively got privileges.
Okay,
so it's the same
thing.
Okay.
Except you can relinquish actively while the project's still open. You can relinquish your ownership and keep it open, and then someone else can take the ownership, and then you will see that they've taken it. It has their name in brackets in the name of it.
And they do that with the lock and pen thing. Is that right?
The little padlock that's in the bottom corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, is there a share changes process?
No, you save like a normal project.
Teams?
No,
okay.
no, you just save like a normal save action that you do with a normal project, because these are effectively normal projects.
Right.
They've just got a little bit of some magic there that just says, okay, I'm aware of this project and that project and the files that it has, and I don't need a copy of those files in order for me to start working with them, which will be the next bit that I show.
I'm sure you're about to show this, but so in that project, that new projects panel, when you click on a project, does it show you what's inside there at every level? Does it say, oh, here are your sequences, here are the sequences that are in that, here's the media that's in that, here's blah, blah, blah? What's the deal?
Let's have a look back on what we're looking at. Okay, so when you look at the production panel, the production panel itself, the only thing that you can see is the folders and the projects. You can't see inside them. You got to open them in order to see inside them. If you could do that, then that's a production asset management system. And that's got a whole other bunch of things of complexity.
Yeah.
But you can limit what you're looking at. So if I wanted to just look for day stuff, I can use the filter there to look for day if it's complex.
What do I do with this panel then? If you're saying I can't, if you double click on that project, what does it do?
It opens
it. The only thing that panel is doing is opening and closing projects and making sure that the media between those two projects is perfectly in sync.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
So if you have project A with media in it and you drag some media into project B that doesn't have that media in it, what would you expect to happen?
It'd be offline or something, wouldn't it?
So it would bring that in as a separate file.
It's a separate
right?
file. Yeah, well, it's a separate look. It's a separate link to the same file, I would assume.
Exactly.
Right?
So all this is going to do is when you drag it into a sequence in project B, that file is actually going to be hidden. You can't see it. And it's going to make sure that file is the same whichever project it's used throughout that production. Anything that's defined within that production panel, that piece of media will be the same wherever it goes.
But so how do you drag one from one project to the other project? Are you assuming that both of those projects are open at the same time in your Premiere?
Yeah.
You have to be able to see it in order to drag it over. Yeah.
So here's something that people might not realize.
So say you drag it from a sequence in project A to a sequence in project B.
Yeah.
If that bit of media doesn't exist in project B, it will bring it in, but it will be invisible. You can't see it, and it will make sure that it is the same piece of media wherever it goes. If it goes out,
not
of
even
that project,
invisible. That's the thing. I think
invisible.
It's not even invisible. It's literally cross-referencing the original project that it came from.
Right.
It's not hidden. Like there is a way to view hidden and kind of hide, select clips and hide them. It's not hiding them. And what that means is that the project file you're working with to do the edits, you can just have sequences in it, and it's just magically cross-referencing a ton of other files that are actually in your sequence, but not inside the project that you're editing the sequence in, which keeps that project light, keeps it small, which means you can double click on it. The thing will launch quick because it's like it'd be rare to see it reach several megabytes.
Mm. But this is one of the things that I think that people might be a bit confused about, which I certainly was, and I've been asked a few times. You can open multiple projects at the same time in Premiere now. It's not a single project opener anymore.
It hasn't been that way for a while, but yeah.
It has been, but a few heads have exploded when I've opened up 3 projects at the same time, and there's 3 individual project panels, and then because I pancake, sometimes that'll pop up and I'll have 6 different sequences all stacked up. And an editor who's never seen that before sometimes has a coronary, because it's just how many edits am I working on at the same time here? And I'm like, what, you can't work on 6 at the same time?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, I mean, that's one of the best ways to work as well, right? Is to have like a project file this is where I put all the music that I like to regularly use. This is a project file that has, a lot of animated graphics that I like to continually draw on. Put that all into a production, and that stuff just is syncing with each other or cross-referencing with each other all the time.
Right. That's a good call. I like that. So does that mean that all updates when you add stuff you have to add stuff to the individual music project, for example?
It has to come into Premiere first.
Yeah. You can't just drop things in folders and it automatically sort of looks them up.
There is actually a third-party plugin for that whose name I've forgotten. There is actually a third-party plugin out there that will say when something goes into this folder on my Finder or Explorer, bring it into my project. But I can't remember the name of that to actually give them a plug.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
So then this becomes quite handy for overseeing a large project and keeping your master project small. I get it.
Yeah, large project, but also like a project that you're working on for a long time. I would say, like the longer that you're working on it, the more backups of something you want to make. It just makes it easier to break it up into smaller projects.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in terms of collaboration, and like I said, I haven't really had the chance to really sort of kick the tires on it in terms of collaboration. I think it's important to say that it all has to be on the same storage. Is that correct, John? A lot of editors assume that we can just throw a production up on Dropbox and make this work, and that's not quite the way this works.
You kind of can, but because of the lag in sync,
Yeah,
you can kind of create some weirdness and
but
potential
you could
corruption.
also
But
have issues with like media links and things like that as well.
yeah, it does need to be looking at the same file path for the clips because of the cross-referencing. It's important that you are working in everybody that's working inside their own project, or all the projects that are being opened on different systems, believe that the clips exist in one location, one path, and that's how it works. And so there's a few questions here that are interesting. But what I'll do is I'll come back to the questions after I showcase the way that let's just do the project A to project B thing and sort of show it first. Yep. Then I'll come back to a couple of these awesome questions.
Yeah, some now, good questions there.
What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to screen share my other system. So this is HAL. The one I was showing before was dark and was the JB factor, which we can see here. And because I'm on a different system, it says the JB factor is locked. Currently, I'm in a music project, which I would use and treat as a music bin. But what I'm going to do is look at, what do we got here? Day 5. So there's content here inside of day 5 that the JB factor has open. And I can see down here as well. Oh, let's see. Is that even going to let me zoom? Let me try and zoom for you all at home. Okay. Is that zooming? Tell me, boys.
That's zooming. It's pretty zooming.
It is zooming.
All right, sweet.
God bless you, my son.
So because I'm on HAL, the JB Factor project that's open day 5, which is a bunch of bike footage, gives me the brackets. Important to understand the brackets. And you can see in the bottom left there, we've got a red padlock. And if I try to unlock it, it will tell me no, but oh, come on, stop moving around everywhere. Oh, you got to love it when technology doesn't want to cooperate. Whoa. Yeah, this is what happens when you remote control another machine. Cannot make project writable because the JB factor already has it open for write. Now, if on my other machine I was to relinquish my rights, then this other machine could pick it up and then start making changes to it. But I don't want to. I just want to treat this as a folder that is locked. Okay. So I've got a bunch of files in here, and I've already pre-tagged these. So there's a boy in the shot, and I'm just going to limit what I'm looking at with the boy. Now, what I'll do inside the edits option here, I'm actually going to right-click on the folder and create a new project. And I'll call this one Project B, because we were just talking about that, right? And the file names are elastic. You could be making changes to these while they're open, and they dynamically will refresh on the storage, refresh here in that production panel that everybody has a view of everyone's work and who's in what with that production panel. So now that's open. We can see Project B exists, but there's nothing in there. I have no sequence. So in order to make a sequence here, we'll just do the new item sequence. I'm just going to hit that. Okay, whatever. Then when I drag a clip in from day 5, there we go, the bike footage. Now, because you've got a lot of...
This is starting to make sense.
Because you've got a lot of different panels here, what I'm going to do is put the Project 5 panel, which if in my mind's eye, I think of it as a bin. I'll grab all the footage here and then I'll just drag it into my sequence. I will change the sequence settings to match. Okay, so let's go back to Project B. Now, Project B only has a sequence. And if I rename the sequence and we call this Amazing, you see that that's changed the name over here as well. Now, these shots all exist. All these shots exist, but they are not inside the project that's controlling the sequence. Where are they?
Where's my media, John? Where's it gone?
Oh, my God.
It's deleted.
Right? It's still inside day 5. Now, what I'll do is I'll actually close the project. So I've closed day 5. And you think of it just like closing. It's the same as if you closed the panel for a particular folder, because some people do that. They have a panel that is actually a folder, right? Jimmy, I've seen you do this 100 million times.
Yes.
Yes. Right. So let's go back. And if I'm like, where's this footage? I want to find the footage. And I use the keyboard shortcut, or in this case, the manual, reveal in project. When I do that, it literally, why am I making a subclip? I'm clicking on something I don't mean to click on. There we go. Reveal project. It opens the project and then it has it highlighted. It's the same. It's the exact same experience you're used to when you have one mega project with a ton of folders and bins in it. But you're splitting out the load of what makes up the megabytes of the project file into small megabyte chunks of project files.
Yeah. And how's the media load times on one of these projects that's drawing from, say, let's say it's drawing from 10, 12 different projects?
Pretty quick.
Is it a faster load time than, say, if you just had the one project with all this stuff in it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's significantly faster. You are really only paying the price of the size of that project file.
Right.
So I was working on a project recently where I had to take a 50 meg file and break it down so that my current sequence basically became a meg, and like load times, save times, and just general stability just went crazy better.
Yeah.
So much better, because I'm just paying the price of that, of the size of that sequence and the media in that sequence. The cross-referencing isn't really taking up much CPU at all.
No, it's amazing how quick it really is. Like the whole thing sort of breathes back life. It's almost like it used to be asthmatic and now it's a marathon runner.
Yeah.
And that's a good way. I mean, again, to get my head around it, I'm sort of understanding it in the multi-project environment, which is, so that people, I suppose, to reiterate what I said before, it is multiple projects open at the same time. You're dragging from one project to the other project. The panel is now, as I see it, just a way for you to see how the project's laid and what the organizational structure is. So you'd have it as scene, you'd have different scenes for each project, for example. Then you could have a music edit project. All of that, I can now see that that's more of a visual thing to help you organize the production. And then you can double click, open those 2, 3 projects that you want to combine and start moving stuff around in. And then obviously it's cross-referencing the penultimate clip, which will have that marker in it if you do it in one project and it's appearing in another, as Paul originally said. So yeah, I'm back on board, boys.
Cool.
I tell you the thing that really impressed me when I tested this, because it's been a big bugbear with me for a long time, is I was like, yeah, this is fine for clips, but what about multicam sequences? Because if you do any kind of separate video and audio, multicam sequences is how you live and die. And they're the biggest problems when it comes to duplicate media. You bring a multicam in from another project, it just automatically gives you like sometimes 5 duplicates of your media, but it treats it like a clip. So that multicam sequence stays in sync between different projects. That's the thing where I was like, yeah, they've done this so right.
Yeah,
right.
It's pretty
because
rad.
That's how I live and die, as multi clips.
Yeah, and you can actually hack that a little bit to make sure that your sequences stay in sync as well. Adobe has advised that you shouldn't actually use it this way, but if you bring a multicam sequence in and just use it as a sequence, then those 2 sequences will stay in sync between different projects as well.
Right.
Yeah, there is a way,
but not officially advised.
Right. Yeah. There's a hack that I know of, and I'm not going to show you, but if you do have proper multi-clip things set up properly, and this is different to nesting. Nesting, it's a sequence. When it's a multi-clip or multicam, it kind of becomes a clip. So it can stay where it was made, and you can treat it like a clip where a sequence can hold it, but the project that has the sequence doesn't have to have a copy of it in its own project.
So you're saying that nesting, your multi-clip is definitely more stable than your nest. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you can force a nest to become a multi-clip
Yeah.
or multi-cam.
So
and then it
sequences
will
can't be
behave right.
cross-referenced across projects. Sequences have
Yeah.
to be unique to that
Unique
project.
to that. Okay,
But you
gotcha.
make it a multi-cam sequence or a multi-cam clip.
Yeah.
That behaves like a clip. You add a marker in one project, that marker shows up in another project.
Great. Because a lot of times when just today, for example, I'm actually looking at a project right now where we had obviously separate vision and sound. I've been using MultiClip to sync them up. I didn't have a time code system. We didn't have tentacles or anything like that. So it was just a matter of using the audio pluralized built into it to sync it up when you hit a scene bin with all the audio and all of the shots to make your multi-clips. But sometimes we would be doing 3 or 4 takes within the one roll. And what I'll do is I'll cut out the fodder between each take in that one multi-clip, because when you option double click a multi-clip, you can actually look inside of it like you're looking at a nested sequence, for example, and you can make adjustments to the audio or turn channels on and off and do your channel panning and all of that stuff. But I often put markers within that multi-clip as well between each take, because it's one roll, but then I cut out the fodder in between each of those rolls and leave a marker so it's like take 1, take 2 after false start, take 3, so I don't have to then duplicate multiple multi-clips, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When I was training a lot of studios in New York, the number one thing that would come up with me with multicam clips is that they would have 2 separate projects. The editor would be working on one, the assistant editor would be working on the other. The assistant editor was placing markers in the multicam clip, and then they're like, well, why isn't this showing up in the other project? So, well, these are 2 separate entities. But now that we've got productions above that is making sure those 2 entities are in sync, those markers just ripple over to the other project.
Yeah, great. Okay. Yeah, this is sounding good.
So I was just doing a visual demo of that working between the light screen, light UI and the dark UI, HAL versus the JB project, and showing how
that's a clever way to do it. The different colored projects,
well, different colored user interfaces. That's kind of
user interfaces.
He's a smart cookie, John Barrie.
You should do this.
I'm a cookie. I get to be a cookie. All right, let's answer these questions. We are running out of time.
Let's go. Let's go.
So let's go back into our little questions area. Now, one of them was about no, there we go. I'm back. Okay. Cross-referencing thing limited to production you're working in. What happens if you import a sequence from one production to another? Excellent question. You can only have one production open at the same time. You can't have multiple productions. You can have multiple projects, meaning you can have projects that are part of a production that are open. You could have team projects open as well, have nothing to do with the production. You could also have projects that have got nothing to do with the production open in the same Premiere Pro instance. That's a lot of stuff to try to wrap your head around.
That's
a project has to be unique to that production. So you can't have 2 productions talking to each other.
Can you imagine the nightmare that would be?
I know. But it has to be unique, which is why when you import a project into a production, it leaves that original project the way it is and creates a new version of that project within the production.
Yep. So have a play with that. It basically, you can also then, if you start to import projects in, you can tick a box that says, just do this all the time. Actually make it part of the production. Rather than just importing in sequences or the other options that are there. All right, we're ripping through these questions. Extract a Premiere project from a production. What happens to those media links? I might need a bit more info on
actually, because extracting it, so then it's gonna you'd expect you'd have to rebuild some sort of file structure linking, wouldn't it?
No. So okay, what happens is if you bring something in and you don't, the cross-referencing across all of the projects in a production, it goes, no, nothing else has imported this file from that specific location on the storage. It hasn't done that yet. It will bring the master clips into the project that you imported or the sequence that you brought in. So it moves over, just like if you,
so it's
just like
a
normal,
media
right?
manager. It's like a media manager. Yeah.
Anything else that
Gotcha.
it goes, no, I have brought this in elsewhere. There is a reference of this in a different project that's part of the production. Those won't duplicate. It'll just bring in the ones that it doesn't already have a known connection to. Then you can move them. So you take it from the project that you have the sequence with these new random clips and move them and manage them. You can move them all around through the other projects, just like you move it around from one bin to another bin. It's exactly the same. You just got to have rights to have that project open so you can move it around and save it in there. But you can totally do that, and it keeps track of everything. It's friggin' awesome. All right, next one.
Next one.
You can leave projects locked. So that lock file, I just moved it to my desktop, and I can move that back after the production's closed or the project's closed, and that lock file, that PR lock file, means that it stays locked. If you really want to lock it hard, you can make that particular sidecar file unmovable, so it's properly locked at the storage level. Then no one can open it other than the person who it is opening for, and it registers the system ID and the name that that system ID has in the preferences. So you can lock it right down. It's pretty good. What happens if you reveal in project of a clip in a sequence, cross-reference from another project that's closed? We did that. So I closed the project, and then I said reveal, and it goes and opens the project and then selects and highlights the clip that you went to reveal in project. So yeah,
can I add an asterisk to that? And this is an area that I would like productions to expand on a little bit more, and that is that, especially like for those of us who like cut B-roll, a lot of the times the way you do B-roll is you sort of go, well, what haven't I used in the project yet? At the moment, video and audio usage is still not reflected within that project. So if you've got like a media project and a sequence project, and you say, oh, where haven't I used this? It's not recognizing that you've used it in another project yet. And that's definitely something I think we need to work on.
Yeah, good call.
That's true. And let's keep in mind, this is literally Gen 1 of
early days.
So yeah, that's something I'm sure will
like
be.
You said, Paul, you
haven't
put the screws into it yet, and I think this is what I've got a bit of a doco coming in at the moment, so I think I might be having a crack at this. And, it was that plugin you were talking about called Watchtower. Was that what you were talking about?
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Somebody's put that note in here, Watchtower.
Yeah,
I have not used it.
My friend Scott Simmons speaks highly of it.
So I think the final question here has got to do with that referencing that the project, the clip has been used somewhere. Does the link work both ways? Does the media being referenced in a sequence show if it's being used in a separate project? Yeah, right. Yeah. Today, no. It's metadata. So, that kind of feedback, obviously. What's the name of that thing that I've sent into the Adobe Pro Video user group? You guys probably know it more than me. Maybe I should just look it up.
User voice, is that what you're talking about?
That's the one, user voice. So yeah, the user voice, that's where the engineering team and the product team see that, and it changes the hierarchy of focus. Production's version 1, very solid. This is a great sort of request for the next gen of it. And
it is also worth saying, not to go too deep into the workflow, but you can unproduction a project as well. So you can also, for example, if you had to hand a project off to somebody who won't have access to a production, you can just say, look, I want this particular project file to just have all its own media that it's using within that project file later on in the process, which is great.
Yeah, I think the thing that really sort of opens things up, if you are able to get other people to help you with ingest, is that you've separated a bin that you want populated, that you still want to actively use what's in there, but you can assign someone else to populate it because now it's a project. And so someone can be going in and adding stuff in, and when they hit save, you go and refresh because you get a little warning symbol. that shows you that it needs to be refreshed. And then you just refresh with all the new clips that they've put in there. But you can just still grab them and put them inside your edits.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, geez, there's a lot in that. I think my takeaway from this discussion tonight, because I'm obviously a freshman in terms of this particular, what is it? Is it even a piece of? It's built in. It's a built-in. You wouldn't even call it an API because it's now part of the ecosystem of Premiere.
Yep.
But I can definitely see it being used in long-form documentary, in just assembling scenes, assembling different parts of the film. I could see it in even your TV shows. You got scenes. You could have different each editor working on a different scene, and you're doing your
honestly, I think even mid-sized projects, if you've got a project file that is going over 15-20 meg, this is the way to break it down, because there's got to be a reason that you're going up to 20 meg in a project file. Right. And you're just going to have smoother playback, smoother stability, slower load times, slower save times if you're breaking your project up like this. And it's just the same as putting something in a bin. You're putting it in a project instead.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing a screen share now showing how you can change the name of projects and then move what folder they sit in, and the folder is part of your communication and handover process. So I've seen this. There's a major broadcaster that shall remain nameless that has a weekly show that's been going for over 60 years. You can do the math and figure it out. And they now use this for their show, and they shoot like the week's worth, and then they kind of compile down what it is that they're going to use into a sequence per day. But all the content exists within the production, and it's super fast, and they love it. And part of the way that things work is that they do the handover. So they have a folder there for handover or quality control. And so this might be renamed as QC check. And then any projects that sit inside there are going through a QC check. And then you might rename it and then put it back into wherever it needs to go. So you can put that back into now the edits folder. And this management of the actual folders and their projects within the folders is exactly mirrored on the storage.
Right.
So you could even just go in at the storage level and be sort of managing them there, and that will update inside the production panel for the users as well.
I do have a question based on that. Is the production panel, can you open that in multiple Premiere projects? So can 3 different, say, post supervisors all be working on the same project panel?
The production panel is one panel, and that can be opened on any machine that's connected to the same storage, that is then able to open the folder, like where that folder is for the production.
Yeah. But so multiple people could be opening it at the same time and managing it or seeing it move around and doing updating and all that. Yeah, okay.
Yep. It gives you everyone gets a bird's eye view.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
good.
It's really cool. So, all right, well, we're out of time. We did start a little bit late. We've gone a little bit over. The promo for this week, I did specifically put in the end 8-ish. And
we all know how it goes.
I know. The one thing that I do want to call out just as we wrap up is that even though this is kind of limited to central storage, next week we're going to be having a technology partner called LucidLink on, and they have figured out how to use cloud storage as a NAS, which means you can emulate on your own machine, no matter where you are in the world, through their app to emulate that NAS on your machine.
And just as a tease, John, I did test some of that out with you, and I was pretty blown away.
Yeah.
I had a quick run at it. I had a quick run at it myself, and it is next level thinking in a cloud environment, and editing would just be really amazing.
Yeah.
If you had the money for the space, you could pretty much put your entire operation in the cloud if you wanted. Yeah. So that's next week. So that'll be
pretty full on. Stuff. There is one question that's just come in last second here. Do projects in productions have their own settings, or is it at the production level? What a perfect question. To keep things consistent It is at the productions level. So the scratch discs and all of that sort of stuff
Project
stay
settings.
centralized. If you want the labels to change, that is something that is up in the air. They're not sure where they want to land, but you cannot ask it to have currently anyway, at the time of this recording, you cannot set the label color in the project panel to mimic and then copy into the sequence. They are separate at the moment. I have had customers that say they don't want that. They want it to be the same. They want to enforce color-coded assets, and it's not part of the way it works right now. But it's certainly been heard. It's on the radar for the next version of it. Hopefully, that comes in sooner rather than later. But get in, have a play. This is meant to get you interested and have a little play.
Definitely.
On that,
I'll play us out.
Play us out, Jimmy. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Al Manders, for helping us out on the back end.
Team.
And Jude, McAuley, Cotter, thank you. And thank you to the viewers that come and give us a bit of a chin-wag and provide all the questions, most of which this time came from Julian. G'day, mate. Thanks for all the questions.
No wonder they're all so good.
Hey, Julian.
He went deep.
See everybody next week.
Catch you next week. Jimmy, you're getting good at this live music.
Thanks, man.
Digging it.